Tonight we cover a story the world has dreaded for decades, a scenario that has been whispered in war rooms and debated in the halls of power. Open war between Iran and Israel. A direct confrontation, no longer confined to the shadows, but a full-blown conflict reshaping the Middle East and sending shockwaves across the globe. For years, these nations fought in the shadows, a clandestine struggle of espionage and intrigue. Spies working in the dark, gathering intelligence and sowing discord. Cyber attacks, crippling infrastructure and stealing vital secrets in the digital realm. And proxy groups armed and funded fighting battles by proxy in distant lands. But on June 15, 2025, the shadows vanished, replaced by the harsh light of open warfare. The war became direct, explosive and global, threatening to engulf the entire region and beyond. Explosions rocked major cities, turning bustling metropolises into scenes of devastation. Missiles streaked across the Middle East, leaving trails of fire and destruction in their wake. This is not just a regional crisis, it's a threat to global security, with implications for every nation on Earth. Sirens wailed in Israel, a constant reminder of the imminent danger. Airstrikes shook Iran, targeting key infrastructure and military installations. Headlines screamed, "War in the Middle East," a stark declaration of the new reality. For the first time, Iran and Israel struck each other directly on their own soil, shattering decades of strategic ambiguity. The old rules are gone. A new, terrifying chapter has begun, one filled with uncertainty and peril. How did we get here? What were the key miscalculations? And what happens next? What are the potential outcomes of this unprecedented conflict? This is a full-scale military confrontation between two of the region's most advanced armies, both equipped with sophisticated weaponry and battle-hardened forces. Israel wields a powerful air force and cutting-edge technology, giving it a significant advantage in the skies. Iran commands vast missile arsenals and a network of regional allies capable of launching attacks from multiple fronts. The conflict erupted with a swift Israeli operation, met by an equally fierce Iranian response, escalating tensions to a boiling point. Now, both sides are locked in a deadly cycle of attack and counterattack. The situation changes by the hour, making it difficult to predict what tomorrow will bring. Our teams are on the ground, risking their lives to bring you the latest, as this historic crisis unfolds, providing real-time updates and expert analysis. This is the first direct war between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the State of Israel, a moment that will forever be etched in the annals of history. For years, experts warned of this doomsday scenario, painting a grim picture of regional conflagration. Tonight, it's real, unfolding before our very eyes. The fighting is intense, the stakes higher than ever, with the potential for catastrophic consequences. In this special report, we'll break down what's happening, how we got here, and what it means for the world, examining the geopolitical implications and potential long-term consequences. Stay with us. The nightmare has begun, and we'll be here to guide you through it, every step of the way. The war began with a secret, sudden attack, Operation Rising Line. It was a meticulously planned operation shrouded in secrecy, designed to catch Iran off guard. Before dawn, under the cover of darkness, Israeli jets slipped past Iranian radar, utilizing advanced stealth technology to evade detection. The jets streaked across the sky, targeting military and nuclear sites deep inside Iran. These locations were strategically chosen for their importance to Iran's military and nuclear capabilities. The mission crippled Iran's ability to strike back and send a clear, unmistakable message: Israel can hit anywhere, anytime. It was a demonstration of power and resolve. Explosions rocked Kermanshah, a key strategic city. The earth shook as explosions ripped through other key locations across the country. Military bases vital to Iran's defense, command centers, the nerve centers of military operations and nuclear facilities, the heart of Iran's nuclear ambitions, were hit with devastating force. Reports say 4 senior Iranian intelligence officials, key figures in the regime, were killed in the attacks. Israel claimed aerial superiority over western Iran, effectively controlling the skies and destroying many missile launch sites before they could be used. The goal: protect Israeli cities from retaliation, but tragically, civilian areas were also hit in the crossfire, casualties mounted, overwhelming emergency services. Iran was stunned, reeling from the scale and precision of the assault. Israel's defense minister warned in a televised address, "This is just the beginning, a taste of what's to come if provoked further." The world watched with bated breath, waiting for Iran's inevitable response, knowing the stakes were incredibly high. The first shot had been fired, the point of no return crossed. War was now unavoidable, a grim reality settling over the region. The region braced for what would come next, for the inevitable escalation. The stakes had never been higher, threatening to engulf the entire Middle East. The message was clear, etched in fire and steel. Israel would not back down, would defend its interests at any cost. But Iran still had plenty of weapons at its disposal, and powerful allies willing to lend their support. The countdown to retaliation had already begun, ticking away relentlessly. The Middle East was on edge, holding its breath, waiting for the storm to break. Iran's answer was swift, decisive, and terrifying. The initial strike was just the beginning of a much larger response. Within hours, Iran unleashed a massive barrage of ballistic missiles and drones at Israeli cities, a coordinated attack designed to overwhelm defenses. Tel Aviv, Haifa, and other strategic locations across the country. The attack was widespread, impacting numerous population centers. The night sky erupted in fire, a terrifying display of military might. Sirens blared, a constant piercing warning. Millions ran for shelter, seeking safety from the aerial assault. The streets emptied as people desperately tried to find cover. Iran fired about 100 missiles in the first wave, a saturation attack intended to test Israel's defenses. Israel's Iron Dome and David's Sling intercepted most, but not all of the incoming projectiles. Some missiles slipped through the defensive net. 10 missiles broke through, striking buildings, roads, and critical infrastructure. The impact was immediate and devastating. In Haifa, an apartment building collapsed, burying residents and killing 8. Rescue efforts were immediately underway. In Tel Aviv, more were injured as panic spread through the streets. The city was in chaos. A refinery burned, sending flames into the night sky, and power lines fell, plunging neighborhoods into darkness. And black smoke choked the sky, a grim reminder of the destruction below. The air was thick with the smell of burning fuel. At least 8 civilians died and over 100 were injured, many critically. Hospitals were overwhelmed with casualties. Iran called it punishment for Israeli aggression, a justified response in their eyes, vowing more attacks if provoked. State TV showed missile launches claiming only military targets were hit, but the world saw civilian devastation, a clear contradiction. The message was clear: if Israel attacks, Iran will strike back, hard and without hesitation. The cycle of violence was in full motion, spiraling out of control. Israel had struck Iran, and now Iran had struck back with overwhelming force. The Middle East skies had become a battlefield, a theater of war. Each hour the conflict grew deadlier, more destructive and more unpredictable. The world watched horrified as the situation deteriorated rapidly. The conflict was no longer containable, threatening to engulf the entire region. Retaliation was now the rule, the expected response to any act of aggression. The region braced for further escalation, fearing what the next day might bring. The war didn't stay between Iran and Israel, it spread fast. Iran's regional allies or proxies joined in. Hezbollah in Lebanon launched rockets into northern Israel, opening a second front. In Syria and Iraq, Iranian-backed militias attacked Israeli targets and U.S. bases. The Houthis in Yemen fired missiles at southern Israel and ships in the Red Sea. Israel now faced attacks from every direction. American soldiers and global shipping were suddenly at risk. The conflict became a regional firestorm, just as experts feared. Israel's military was stretched thin, defending on multiple fronts. The risk of a wider, uncontrollable war grew by the hour. The Middle East teetered on the edge of disaster. Every new rocket, every drone made the situation more volatile. The war was no longer just Iran versus Israel, it was the whole region. News of war sent shockwaves worldwide. The U.S. immediately backed Israel's right to defend itself, but urged restraint and diplomacy. President Trump, at a G7 summit, called for calm and a possible deal. Russia and China demanded an immediate ceasefire, warning of global consequences. The UN Security Council held an emergency meeting, pleading for restraint. European leaders condemned attacks on civilians and offered to mediate. Oil prices soared, and fears of a refugee crisis grew. Inside the U.S., politicians were divided. Some demanded more support for Israel, others warned against deeper involvement. The world was alarmed, divided, and desperate for the fighting to stop. Statements flew, but bombs kept falling. The risk of escalation was real. Diplomacy struggled to keep up with the violence. The world watched, hoping for a breakthrough. The stakes had never been higher. Behind the headlines, ordinary people suffer most. In Israel, millions huddle near bomb shelters. Schools and businesses are closed. Streets are empty. Every siren brings terror. Every explosion, new trauma. In Iran, airstrikes have killed hundreds, mostly civilians. Subway stations double as bomb shelters. Families flee their homes, becoming refugees in their own country. Both nations face shortages of food, fuel, and medicine. Hospitals are overwhelmed. Power outages and communication blackouts isolate communities. Children grow up to the sounds of war. The psychological scars will last for years. Hatred and fear deepen on both sides, making peace seem impossible. Nearly 250 have died. Hundreds more are wounded. These are not just numbers, they are lives, families, futures lost. The true cost of war is paid by those who never chose it. Their stories are the heart of this tragedy. War's cost isn't just in lives, it's economic chaos. Oil prices spiked as fighting threatened Persian Gulf supplies. Missiles and Houthi attacks made shipping routes dangerous. Global stock markets plunged, investors fled to gold and bonds. Israel and Iran's economies took the hardest hit. Billions spent on war, not on people. Flights were canceled, trade froze, and sanctions tightened. Tourism vanished, foreign investment dried up. The economic pain will last long after the bombs stop. A glimmer of hope calmed markets briefly when talk of diplomacy surfaced. But any new attack could trigger panic again. The world's economy is now tied to the fate of the Middle East. Everyone is watching, wallets and nerves on edge. As bombs fall, frantic diplomacy races behind the scenes. The US pushes for a deal, even vetoing Israeli plans for further escalation. Iran sends mixed signals, firing missiles but hinting at talks. Both sides are under immense pressure. Israel wants security, Iran wants relief from sanctions and attacks. Trust is low, demands are high. The challenge: find common ground before the war spirals further. Russia, China, and the UN try to mediate, but time is running out. Every day of fighting hardens positions and deepens anger. Some believe only a desperate Iran will accept a deal. Others fear hardliners will block any compromise. The world hopes for diplomacy, but the path is narrow and dangerous. The fate of millions hangs in the balance. Can leaders choose peace over pride? The next move could decide the region's future. The world waits for a breakthrough. The clock is ticking. The world stands at a crossroads. Three futures are possible and all are perilous. First, a wider war. If the US is drawn in, the conflict could explode into a global crisis. Second, a grinding war of attrition, endless strikes, permanent instability and suffering. Third, a diplomatic breakthrough, painful compromises but a chance for peace. The best outcome is also the hardest to achieve. The world holds its breath, hoping for wisdom and restraint. This conflict proves how quickly the unthinkable can become real. Old rivalries remain a threat to us all. The choice: dialogue or disaster. The world is watching, waiting, and praying for peace. The next days will shape history. The cost of failure is unimaginable. The hope for peace is fragile, but it's all we have. The future is unwritten.